the Weather Bureau. It is 12 minutes past 11 o'clock.
We are one. Every Aussie has a story about the ABC. Just ask Jimmy Barnes.
I'm a musician and I listen to music all the time, but I drive in the car and only have the ABC because I want to stay informed. I want to hear alternative sorts of music. I want to hear honest opinions. I want people to present facts to me so that I can gather and make my own opinions, which is really, really important.
Share your stories at abc.net.au/yours.
ABC, it's yours.
It is absolutely yours, and so am I. Libby Gore is my name. This is your Sunday program on Sunday, December the 2nd at 13 minutes past 11 o'clock. The health and wellness show for the flawed yet optimistic that perhaps tomorrow we might do a little bit better than we did today. Hey, do you believe in the spirit world? Or have you got some other explanation for suddenly feeling familiar with someone who has died? Somebody feeling their presence. I think it was the Schlegel brothers that said, please don't frown because it makes me worried. That was like referring one's anxiety state into your own consciousness. I know that you can actually feel absence. That's something else that I know is possible. But Helen Parry Jones has got a remarkable story about her interaction with the spirit world and her access to it, and she joins you on the radio this morning. Good morning to you, Helen.
Good morning, Libby. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
It is very good to have you here, and always, of course, people are interested in whether or not there is a connection with those that have passed, whether or not there's some kind of Jungian pool of soul.
Well, first of all, I'm not a spirit guide. I know that you introduced me as that.
It says spiritual healer and communicator. Beg your pardon.
Yeah, a guide is someone that actually, you have a guide, I have a guide, everyone has a guide.
Sam's your guide.
Yes, he is indeed. So they are our mentors, our spiritual mentors. But actually, as a spiritually awakened person, I do connect with that spirit world. I don't summon the spirit world. They come simply of their freedom of their own will. So for me, it's almost like breathing. You can't switch off to breathing. If you switch off to breathing, you die. A little bit like that for me spiritually. It's just so natural. I've had it since I've been a child. It's something I've had to live with, and it's there for me.
So, without being facetious, you're saying that as a child you saw dead people.
I did. When I was 4, I saw Sam. He was actually, the first time I saw him, I went to my auntie's house, and she used to have, in those days, I'm afraid we weren't very modern, and my auntie had an outside privy, used to call it, which was a loo, and we used to have to go outside to go and use that. And when I came out, age 4, there he was sitting on the step, and to me, he was as real as you sitting here. But he explained to me that it was the first time I'd actually seen a black man as well, and he explained to me that he was my guide, and that he would explain to me about the gift that I had. It was because they said I needed to have the gift of clairvoyance and understand that to begin with, because everything I do, whether I was going to give a sitting, whether I was going to give hands-on healing in the future, it was all about healing, because the message can be healing as well as the action.
That's what I'm interested in, the healing part of it.
Well, of course.
How is it healing is it healing to complete unfinished business with someone, given that you don't summon the spirit world?
Well, you have your loved ones in the spirit world. They love you. That love connection is always there. It is an energy that lives on and lives around you, and it connects to you. So those in spirit absolutely love you. They know you. It's not for them to prove to me that they're here, but they need to connect with you because they love you, and that is a form of healing. When you've lost someone that's very, very close to you, sometimes some people don't have that closure. Sometimes people have very tragic circumstances surrounding their passing, or it happens very quickly for them.
Sounds lovely.
And the spirit will try to either give us signs that they're around, or they try to give us an actual, well, through someone like myself, who's like a little telephone link, if you like, they try to give a message to say, yes, we're here. And they do that in some of the most remarkable ways. At one of my evenings quite recently, we had 2 murder cases that communicated. Now, I was listening to your intro, and it was quite interesting. And you were saying, well, is this something that we just feel? Well, you can't feel fact. You know, at the end of the day, to actually start speaking about facts about somebody you don't know, and a generation that you don't know about, in a country that you don't know, is quite remarkable.
But what gives you that confidence that you do know?
Well, I've just grown up with it. It's just been with me forever.
You just
You know,
know
from the
yourself.
age of 4, you know, if you have to deal with this, it's either, I mean, my parents, for instance, they found it incredibly difficult to accept my gift. They even took me down to the doctors. I mean, they even thought there was something wrong with me. Thankfully, I was very lucky that the doctor actually said, no, there's nothing wrong with this girl. She's as normal as you are, and she must be seeing something that you can't see. And over the years, that's the way it's been. But for my parents, it was incredibly difficult. They just wanted their child to excel in normal ways, as normal people do. And I just thought it was natural that everybody could see. I didn't know at that age that not everybody could see the spirit world. At 4 or 5, 6 years of age, I just thought it was a normal thing to do.
Who's here now?
You have your guide standing behind you, which is beautiful. We all have an angel, which is our guardian angel, that brings us into this world and takes us out of this world. They don't speak to us, they don't do anything other than be that guardian, but we all have a guide. And each of us develop with our guides. So sometimes you can change guides mid-sentence, so to speak. During your course of your living life, you may have 2 or 3 guides, or you may be lucky enough to have the one guide. It all depends on your progression and their progression. It's all about how your spirituality grows.
How did they choose me, or did I choose them?
I think it's like any tutor or mentor, and in the spirit world, certainly, they choose you because they're interested in you.
Who's behind me?
Well, you have your guide that's been with you about 30 years now, and he's been mentoring you for quite some time. It's male. He's been with you quite some time. I get the impression he's probably dabbled in. No, I know he's probably dabbled in the same kind of world as you, and that's probably why there's an interest. I think some ways we're chosen, aren't we? That's the way it is for me.
Sam chose you.
I think so. Well,
Has he
it's
aged?
it's interesting,
When you see
actually.
him, is
When
he
I was
still-
writing the book and I said to him, you know, did you choose me? He said, actually, it's the other way around. You chose me. You're my boss. But I couldn't get my head around that. What you must understand is I'm just a normal person leading a normal life. I've had to live with this. It would have been so much easier for me to have done a different career.
But then how did you choose to make it a career?
It's one of those things that I couldn't switch off from, and because they explained to me very early on that it was about the gift of healing, it was everything that I was going to do was involving healing. They said you needed the gift of clairvoyance and understand that first of all, so that you could apply it to the healing. And then gradually, as time's gone on, and I'm as old as I am now, which is quite worrying, I've become a medical intuitive, and lots of documentaries, lots of research has been done in the sense of people following and looking at my work. And it's uncanny, the connection. It is uncanny. I have no explanation for it exactly, but I do know that medical science is moving forward, and science itself is moving forward. They already understand that there is a lot of energy around this world, a lot of energy that they don't understand, and how it can connect to us. And somehow it does do that.
But you must get a lot of pushback. You must get people...
What do you mean by pushback?
Well, people who don't believe you, think you're bonkers.
Well, I think that they, you know, it's understandable if people don't understand the spirit world. We wouldn't be normal. It's very polarised, the views towards it. But people, I think, can tell there's this connection between people. We love people. And yes, okay, you're always going to have your skeptics. I can't take those out of the world, I'm afraid. But over the years, not so many now, not so many these days.
Changing a little bit.
Very much so.
So when you were a younger woman, did you attempt any other professions? To actually commercially exploit it.
I think that's a really harsh word, because I never exploit anything. I think we all have to live in this world. You know, I can't go to the petrol, when I put petrol in the car, I can't go to the petrol station and say, hey, I'm Helen, I'm trying to do my work freely, can you just fill my car up? Unfortunately, that's not the way the world works. And if you're going to provide a service in this world...
exploit as
I know,
a pejorative.
But if you're going to do something like that, you have to, if you're going to give a professional ability towards someone, you have to provide professional services. And unfortunately, in this world, we have to pay for that. So,
but how do you? I don't mind it being a business.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, the choice to make it a business means it must have been such an overpowering vocation that being something else didn't cut the mustard for you.
No, it wasn't that. I started my time off in dentistry. I became...
That's interesting.
I know.
That's
so
interesting.
I was a dental nurse, then I did some hygienist work. And The thing that really, really tore at me was I had so many people wanting to communicate. So I had to prove it to myself whether I was actually a fruitcake, whether I was telling lies, whether I was telling the truth. I had to prove it to myself. So I set up my very first evening. And on my very first evening, 200 people turned up to that evening.
This is the interesting, this is what I'm getting at. It's a choice as to whether you go with the part of you that is unique and off the wall and different.
I just needed to know for myself really more than anything. It wasn't a choice of saying, right, I'm going to stand on the stage, I'm going to earn a living out of this.
No.
It was a proof situation. For me, I needed to know whether it actually connected with me and whether this was meant for me. So it was a big kind of courage situation to stand there. And of course, that was when my first murder case came through.
Really?
In front of 200 people. That was incredible. And that made the headlines, of course.
And what was that?
It was a young girl at the time. She was a teenager that had gone missing. She was only missing at the time. And it was in the newspapers and it was on the news, but she was only missing. And at that evening, when I stood on the stage, I actually saw two girls stand by me. And it was incredible. One of them touched my arm, which was the girl that happened to be murdered. And she picked the head of CID out of the audience and said, "You can work on my case." Now, initially, he was
CID?
Like, which is the police in England.
Okay.
And they were actually quite interested, the two people that were sitting there, because it's his wife and him. And he kept shaking his head saying, no. And she just kept saying, yes, it is, it's you. Made him stand up, and she explained the circumstances of her death.
So how does she
in front of 200 people?
You?
Yes. When I saw her on stage, she came with a girl that was part of the Moors murders, and they've both been murdered, obviously. Initially, I saw what I would consider to be a guide standing by her, who was obviously protecting the situation. And in the guide's hand was a little rose. And I thought, that's beautiful, standing on the stage next to me. The next minute, that rose turned into blood going through her fingers. And then the girl touched my arm, and I could feel all the senses of her death. It was the most moving and the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life. And that was the first time I was on stage. So picked the head guy out, and eventually he crumbled. He said, I just got the ticket through my wife tonight. She was coming with a friend. The friend let her down last minute, and I'm here. And he said, stop the evening. Nobody should know about this. And we went and took notes. 3 days later, they found the girl.
Oh my goodness. Your guest in the radio is Helen Parry Jones. She's a spiritual healer and communicator. If you have a question, we've got maybe time for one or two, so I'll give you the opportunity. 1300 222 774. Have you had a sign from beyond? I think it's better to do that rather than take Helen on. Have you experienced a sign? 1300 222 774. It's 25 past 11.
Try to see it my way.